Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's Thursday night. I'm Dixie Dave, my co-host Crusher Crossen, and I got one thing to say. I'm back.
You're back, and it's been, a month, Dave, since we've seen you on the show.
I'm sorry, but
A month, because we go every other week with Rewind,
yeah.
and so it's a month. Yeah, it's doing forward and Rewind. I'm on every week, and just so everybody knows, though, going forward, no pun intended, forward may not always happen. It just depends if I have guests lined up as I go forward and stuff. So we'll just keep that in mind. I got an announcement to make for my next forward for next week. We'll save that for the end. But yeah, so Dave, how did you have a good time off this past month then?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Get to spend some time with some of my Dixie chicks.
Yeah, the kids.
You know the story behind that.
Yeah.
We had a blast, and getting ready to roll into my crazy season.
Yeah, I know. It's
for
funny
personally.
The winter is just upon us here. We're no sooner gotten to summer and it's already starting, like the daylight's starting. We're starting to lose daylight already. It's starting to shift.
Well, Crusher, I mean, you know where I'm at here in the Twin Cities, and part of my craziness this year is make it up for last year.
Yeah.
As you know, I'm engaged, and
yeah,
my fiance last year couldn't really do much anything, so this year we're making up for it, and it's going to be a crazy next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, doing something I've never done before. 6 concerts, 2 weeks.
Yeah, I know you guys like to tour those nostalgia 80s stuff, right?
Oh yeah. I mean,
and it's very fitting for the NWF because we're all about the 80s. That's the NWF was pretty much around in the 80s, and so as we do Rewind, we look back at us. And speaking of which, Dave, this show today we're going back to the Dayton Studios. Very first show out of Dayton.
Studios. The fun studio.
Oh, it was a fun place. And of course, Dixie Dave will be on this episode, and it's going to be a great show. The Dayton Studios was fun because we once again had a place to tape matches, and
we had freedom.
Right. Nobody telling us what, other than Luscious Larry. But no one trying to dictate to us. It was all under our control. When I say Luscious Larry, I mean he was trying to infiltrate and take things over at this point in time, so we had to deal with that. But
yeah.
But the wrestling is really developing here. On these later shows, so a little bit more technique. Not so much goof. I don't know what you want to call it, but
a
little more polished. Wayne McCarty says, where was the Dayton studio? So it was the story there is Ernie Ellis, Dirty Ernie, had purchased a property in Dayton, Minnesota, and it was, gosh, Dave, it's one of those county roads that come off of the it's not West River Road, but it would be West River Road if it kept going.
It's Diamond Lake Road.
Yeah, Diamond Lake Road, and it would kind of jet off from there and just head, kind of west, and it was like a farm property right off of one of them county roads there in Dayton, and it was a pole barn, and the house was in shambles. Dirty Ernie thought he could fix it up, but it had this pole barn, and we first got it. That pole barn, Dave, was plump full of junk. I mean, it was some kind of a rat pack, hoarder collector or whatever you want to call it. I don't know what the guy did there who had the property. But we had to it took weeks and weeks of cleaning that thing out to get it emptied. And that was going to be our home for the NWF, and it worked real well.
Oh, yeah. And it was a nice place to go wrestle. I mean, some side fun there. I mean, I remember the first time you took me out there.
Yeah. Yeah, it was... And what's nice about this, this first taping was one. Here's the thing I remember back in the day, like we don't see it. You only see it through the viewfinder, and you don't realize things until you edit it. And what we realized is the sun was coming up on the east and was coming right through these windows in the top of that pole barn. And so when the camera hit those windows, we just go dark.
Be prepared to be blinded.
Yeah, so you'll see that go dark and coming kind of in and out of the darkness. That's just when we realized that we were editing, and I got to Ernie. I said, Ernie, we got to do something. He's like, let's get some black spray paint and let's paint them black. So that's what we did. We painted those windows black, and so every episode after this one, all the shows going forward would fix that situation. But we literally just painted the windows black, just spray painted them black, and that took care of it.
Whatever works,
Yeah. That took care of it. But before we get to that, let me run the, as you know, every show, I always run the little 3-minute promo on what's going up on the video network next. Because on the 1st and the 15th, I put a new show on the video network. So a little bit of a surprise here coming up. It's going to be one of the Armory shows. The very last Armory card we did. Superstar Spectacular 87 for the first time. Now, people, if you've gotten the DVD version of this, you've had an edited version. This is going to be uncut, full, complete. So it's kind of cool that way. Like you get all the in between what happened, with the announcers. They always were doing talking in between the matches and stuff. So it's kind of cool. But yeah, let's take a look. We're going to watch this preview quick and kind of give you an idea what's going up on the video network. And of course, this is also a preview of what we're going to be doing on our next show. And that's all in timing, Dave, because if you look at the calendar, the next show we do on Rewind will be the anniversary of this Armory show. So it's all planned out, right, Dave?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, let's watch this quick little promo and then we will get to the show. So let's take a look.
Yeah.
The second annual Superstar Spectacular 1987 here from the Anoka Armory. This is Gary Galbavy along with Ken Boyer. Ken, this is going to be an awesome night of wrestling action with the NWF.
Wait a minute, who's this at ringside over here? I don't know who that guy is.
Oh, Disco Joe hanging tough at 103 pounds, 5'1". Comes from Disco City, USA. Now off the ropes. The clothesline.
Oh, big clothesline.
They're wasting no time. We're ready in the match.
Hey,
right
the
here.
Destructors right off him off that bed. Bombs away. Hey, look out, he got him. Oh, brutal. He was about 12, 15 feet in the air.
And Mystery Kid, he's giving some advice to one of the Destructors. So we have a body slam of Tommy Tornado.
Pile driver on top of that steel chair. Oh.
This match is called, but somebody's got to stop this chaos. 3 who holds him. White Ninja holds him. Vader 3 off the second rope.
Oh, big clothesline. No, off the top rope with that cast. Oh, oh man. He is out like a light.
They hit me with the cast.
Well, they've claiming that he was... This sure looked like it to me in the crowd.
Vader 3 now getting the crowd going on.
And here comes the champ. Crusher Crossen.
Crusher Crossen and
This
Kid
guy's
Kelsey.
got moves he hasn't even used yet, believe me.
This is for the NWF World Championship.
Beverly Hills, California, the world champion. I've seen him wrestle all over the world. Japan, Italy.
Right now, Kelsey's trying to take away some of those.
Hey, big drop kick right in the teeth.
Boy.
That'll rearrange your dental work.
Rick Pitts trying to chase out
This
Nick
guy's
Willer
got
out
a
of the
million foreign
ring.
objects on him. Oh, man.
And flying off the second is Jerry Tyler. And Jerry's now in the ring.
A neck can snap a neck right in half there.
Steenerson from Sweden, 217 pounds, 5'6".
Oh,
Palm of tank.
Is what is Steenerson having in the palm of his hand? I've been seeing stuff sprinkle out like sand. Whoa! Did you see it? There it is.
Right now we've got a match going on, the U.S. Tag Team Championship, the Lightning Train and the Unknown Studs. And Bobby Ferrari now is joining us at ringside. He'll have his headset on. We'll be ready to call this one in a minute. Bobby Ferrari's knee just got mashed. Ace's head got bashed into the bell. Oh, man, off the ring. Deuce comes back. A double clothesline. Oh! Oh, my. The Spectacular, the second annual Superstar Spectacular. 18 men in here. This is like 2 baseball teams. Unbelievable. Crossing off the ropes. Oh, and a blow by Conan.
Block.
Oh, they're ganging up on Crusher Crossen. This is Gary Galbavy back at the Anoka Armory with the second annual Superstar Spectacular, where it just ended in fine fashion.
Exactly a week away.
Dave and I were talking there during the promo. A week away, that'll hit the network, the video network, in 1 week. And so if you're not subscribed to the video network, you got to subscribe, because even though we do the watch longs here, it's half the resolution when we do it on Rewind. And Dave and I chipper chatter through the whole thing, and you don't get the cleaned up audio restoration that we have, which you've seen in that promo shows that you can hear the audio. So not only has the video been improved, but the audio has been improved too on those. And Dave, what's cool about that, what we just watched, the last Armory card we did, August 23rd, 1987, up against the NWA that was in town at the Met Center, which was horrible timing on our part.
And that's why you didn't see Dixie Dave on the card.
Right. So, which explains why we had a little bit smaller crowd. I think we had 70 people. But, it was the pinnacle of the end. This was the last show I fully promoted, that I was fully in charge of the NWF. This was I look at this show, Dave, and it's kind of the wrestling was really good on that show. All the wrestling was polished. We had come full fruition with the league.
Yep.
From the wrestling to the production we had the mobile van there with a pro shot. We had professional announcers, Gary Galvaby and Ken Boyer, and suit and tie, look the part. Adult refs. I mean, this is really what the NWF was. How we went from bed mattresses to this, and it's a real proud moment to see this, Dave.
Exactly. I mean,
yeah.
We went from being a bunch of kids just screwing around to a professional organization.
And when you watch this production, guys, when we watch this next in 2 weeks, and if you go on the network and subscribe, it's a 2-hour show, and it just the production, the level of production was as good as anything out there as far as production goes. I mean, it was solid. It really was.
And one thing I'm going to say about these restored videos that Crusher's doing, like with the Armory cards, when you get the DVDs, there's stuff that had to be edited out for time restraint.
Yeah.
I mean, like I can vouch for the October 18th show.
Yeah.
You're missing out on Thandar turning on Conan and Captain Crunch.
Yeah.
You're missing out on me asking where our belts were. You're missing out on the commentary with
the little things.
Little nuggets that you miss out on that had to be cut out for time restraints to put them on DVD.
Yep.
And seeing them in the full restoration makes them look so much better. The sound quality is better.
Yeah.
It's like what, $7 a month just for sake of ballparking around figures.
I mean, if you just do the year subscription, you're like $6 and some change a month. Yeah, it's pretty cheap. And it helps us. It helps support all the expense that goes with that restoration, because that's not restoring that stuff from the video, and it's not that's not a cheap process. It takes a lot of work, and not just time, but like equipment. So
exactly,
to make that work, just to get that, it's not easy going from crappy VHS days to making it 1080p. And even when we do this, we sometimes introduce some artifacting because of the low quality that VHS was, but it's very minimal and few, and the trade-off is worth it because everything else is so nice and clean.
Exactly.
Compared to what it used to be. I mean, man, I tell you something. You don't know how much, Dave, I wish I had the technology we have today back then. I mean, I wanted to do all these things. There was no means to do it, with what we have today, nice graphics and everything. Yeah.
For the sake of our younger viewing audience.
Yep.
The cell phone that you carry in your hand has better quality video than the cameras that we had back in the day.
Oh, by far. And, like picture cameras and stuff probably were just as good, because 35 millimeter film just as good really as anything today. But video, we're talking video wise. And when we come to video,
Right.
yeah, there was nothing that was, nothing that was even close. And that's one thing, something, Dave, that's one thing I wished we would have done. I wish we would have had like a photographer at our events taking pictures for us. Where was Wayne McCarty back in the day for us back then? I mean, because that's what he does. He's become that, at a lot of the shows later on. But yeah, we could have used professional pictures. I wish we would have. I did do it. Like Jason Crossen a lot of times was snapping pictures. He got some of those excellent pictures that we do have. That we got out of some of these events. But man, I wish I would have just had somebody just, every match, really getting tons of pictures and stuff would have been great. Yeah. Wayne says, yeah, he started too late. I know. Yes, he's my age. He would have been, 16, 17 years old back then?
Yep.
Yeah. But, well, let's get started with the show and we'll start the watch along. I know everybody's waiting for it.
They're tired of hearing us chitter chatter.
Yeah. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to cover that, talk a little bit about that Armory show, because that was a big deal. That was that last Armory card. I mean, well, I was going to point this out. I meant to say this before I left that subject, but that show, the reason we had 7, think about this. NWA comes to town with Crockett Promotions for the first time. That was a big deal in the wrestling. When you're a big diehard wrestling fan, man, you wanted to see that. So
your chance to see the Nature Boy live.
Right. And
your chance to see Dusty Rhodes, the Road Warriors,
Right. So it's like that was a huge deal at the time. But what I did for this event, Dave, this was the event where I went and plugged our advertisements right on AWA ESPN Wrestling, right on World Championship Wrestling on Saturdays, and right into Tuesday Night Titans. I literally put our commercials in their shows. I worked it out with the cable company. So not everywhere, but like say the whole, pretty much Anoka County and Shoreview, Roseville, that whole system.
Yep.
All those cities. There was like 3 different cable TV North Central affiliates where I was doing this with. So we blanketed basically the upper half of the metro, and I would plug our promos in on their shows. So that's why we had 70 people show up, because we actually got 70 people because they've probably seen the advertisements. I mean, had we not done that, we probably wouldn't have hardly had anybody with the NWA in town,
Yeah.
So it's interesting though, and I thought to myself, and that was just me being creatively thinking. I'm thinking, how can I attract more people? Well, how about advertising all the wrestling programs? Yep. And if you think about it, that's what Vern should have did. He should have been advertising on WWF and WCW shows.
Exactly.
I mean, I would have. It was like a $500 investment for us to do that. And not only did we get on them shows, but we got, a variety of throughout the whole 2 weeks leading up to the event on all sorts of different shows, over the cable channels. That's kind of how we did it. All right, let's get the show started. Enough with us talking. Let's get on with this studio taping 97, Dayton, Minnesota. And of course, remember, this is half the resolution, as it still nice and cleaned up, but about half the resolution. If you want to see this in full 1080p and nice quality, got to subscribe to that network, Dave.
Exactly.
So all the intros rebuilt. This is how they were. I just rebuilt it using better graphics and had to change the music out, of course, so it's not copyrighted anymore.
Yep.
And guys, let me know if it's too loud or too soft. If you can't hear the show sound, I can always adjust that. And I put it in exactly how it was. So All-Star Wrestling, we use that on all these shows. This is what Chris Barger was deathly afraid of us doing. He thought we were going to get sued by Vern Gagne.
And as we stated before, Vern knew exactly what we were doing.
Oh, be rest assured. because I'd hear about it when I'd call his offices and talk to Roy Nelson. He'd tell me, I heard you doing this, or I heard you doing that. So they were keeping tabs for sure.
Well, to be honest, I think if we would have stuck around and Vern would have been able to survive, he would have used us as a feeder system.
He could have, if we would have continued to develop, Remember, when I left the NWF with Dirty Ernie and those guys in the dry dock, it was a full-blown indie promotion at that point.
Yep.
Yep. And if you guys remember these promos we had, I just redid them, rebuilt them, made them look better, changed the music. Still Jason talking, doing the promo like he always did.
That's one person I'd love for us to get on the show.
Yeah, Jason, me too. That's an interesting comment from Wayne. I'm going to bring it in. I'm not talk about this, why Chris was worried. Wayne says there were a lot of wrestling TV shows called All-Star Wrestling around the country, and it's true there were, but the reason Chris was worried that we were using it is because Vern had it trademarked. And he would, there was articles in the paper at the time of him going after other promotions for using it, even other smaller local things. Not so much local, but in somewhere around the 5-state region, he was going after people that used it. So, and it was a big article written in the paper at the time, and Chris Sparger, our announcer, and one of the producers, of our producing committee at the time, he's concerned. He thought for sure that he was going to come down on us because I kept advertising our shows as All-Star Wrestling. And Chris was worried about it. And he made me think twice. I mean, I think I started changing it. I think I changed our slogan after a while to All Pro Wrestling, just to make, just to satisfy that. But
and this is the debut of the Irish Terror, Jamie McFarland.
Yeah, we just had Jamie on last week to fill in for Dave, and he was on with Jeff Dinsmore. And
I find it funny, Crusher. I leave the show, and you need 2 people to fill in my spot.
Well, yeah. We had trouble getting Jeff on right away, too. His connection wasn't working and stuff. But we got it kind of ironed out after a while. But so you can see what I'm saying, those windows. See those windows above the ring? You can kind of see the light coming in already from them. And then when it's hitting the reflection on the ring, we'll do it as well. But it's that light coming in those windows up there that makes the camera go dark. And after a while of taping, we kind of got used to that and tried and would avoid that. But at the beginning here, it's like in these first couple matches, it's rough.
Yep.
Notice Ricky Vaughn, Irish Terror, he's got the valet in the corner. That's his cousin.
Her name was Loshi.
Loshi, yeah.
As Slick Steenerson has an armbar on the Irish Setter.
Yeah, and Wayne said, I can see how it could confuse all the local wrestling fans, maybe thinking NWF was part of the AWA. But you know what, Wayne? I used to say brought to you by the AWA in our intro. I was pretty bold as a kid back then. We weren't, but I just wanted to be recognized somehow because I was in contact with their agent, Roy Nelson. And I used to put Roy Nelson in our credits and everything.
And Crusher, what do you mean you were bold as a kid? You're still bold.
Yeah, but I mean, that's ballsy to say brought to you by the AWA when we're not. And they're seeing that, but they're just, they're turning a blind eye with us. And, thank God he did. Because Vern could have made it rough for us if he wanted to. He could have said, don't say that. Stop saying that. He's kind of turned a blind eye. I'm pretty sure they heard, because if they heard that Roy Nelson was in the credits, because I remember when I called Roy Nelson once, he goes, I heard you got me in your ending credits. I said, yeah, because I'm in touch with you, so I've given you credit. That's how I didn't know what to say. And because he called me out on it. Well, he didn't mention it, but darn well that he was probably told that we were putting brought to you by the AWA in the intro. So I don't know. That's just foolish. That's just young Crusher Crossen trying to do ballsy stuff.
Oh, yeah.
You know, on the production side of things. But no, Vern, I think Vern knew we were doing some of these things. He just kind of turned a blind eye. Vern was more concerned about just surviving. This is the heat of McMahon on you know, trying to take him out.
Exactly.
So he had enough to deal with than other than to worry about us.
Oh, look at all the people. We have Mr. Macho now at ringside.
Slick Steenerson, what a character, huh?
Yeah, I'm eventually gonna have to make it out there to talk to him, and
Those who remember Georges and Fridley would remember him as Slick Steiner. That's what he went
Yep.
by. They had him change
Well,
his name.
that wasn't necessarily his choice. That was
No, it was Ray Webby who suggested it. I remember in the locker room, he says, "You kind of look like one of the Steiners. We should call you Steiner, Slick Steiner." And so, you know, Troy was, you know, doing whatever they said, so he was all for that. Very first match we had, though, it was Slick Steenerson in PWA.
We'll be right back after this.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, Ray Webby was a great guy.
Oh,
Late
yeah.
Ray Webby. He was just a really nice guy. Really, he was the Wally Carbo of the PWA.
Fun guy.
What I mean by that is Wally Carbo was well liked by the boys.
Yeah.
So was Ray Webby. You know, Eddie was the business side of it. The PWA, Ray Webby did, you know, he was kind of the liaison. He talked to all of us in the locker room and stuff. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
You can see how my finger was broke in that promo. I was explaining how I busted my finger in that brick. Remember, I've talked about it a number of times.
Yep, the Brooklyn Park Armory.
Yeah. That was a power slam with Steve Engstrom, Mr. X. Got my hand jammed behind him on a power slam is how that happened. My fault. Yeah, the return of Rockin' Ronabomb. He had been gone for about 6 months.
Yep.
Now, Dave, this is a classic match here to understand if somebody's been away from it for 6 months, how rusty they can be. Keep that in mind. Ronabomb, you know, where we all progressed with the wrestling and got better and better and better. Chad was away from it for about 6 months, so he had you could see the skill level difference here
Yep.
with his opponent. Yeah, because Macho's, you know, pretty well seasoned now at this point in time.
Yep. Well, I remember how rusty I was after I come back from Florida.
Yeah, it's the time you're away from it for a while. It's like you gotta kind of.
Well, you know, it's like we talked about. You know, when you're in the ring every week, your body gets calloused towards taking the bumps.
Oh yeah.
And,
Don't kick me then.
you know, it's like even The Undertaker talked about. There's a difference between being in shape and being in ring shape.
Yep.
You know, being in ring shape means that you've been in the ring taking bumps.
Experienced in wrestling, both men very light, very agile.
You know, you got your cardio up.
You know, Dave, them lights are just horrible. Coming through the window. We got it pretty, you know, dialed in though. After the next couple tapings in this place, we paint those windows black so that light can't bleed through. Then we get a really nice lighting setup above the ring, like kind of, you know, so it lights up the ring properly.
Yeah.
And it was really pretty good setup. But this first taping out here with them, you know, and people say, well, why didn't you fix that when you restored it? Guys, when it goes dark, there's nothing there to restore. Like, I can't fix that. There's no data there. So when it goes black, yeah, there's nothing there. So I can't lighten it back up.
And seeing something reminded me of you yelling at everybody.
What's that? Opening those doors?
Yep.
Yeah. We usually got on people for that. What we should have done is use the back door. I don't know why we kept using the front. I think because it's convenient.
Yep. But that would have been guys going out to have a cigarette or something.
And Wayne McCarty asked about where this is in Dayton. Actually, I looked it up on Google Maps. I went down the road and everything. The pole barn, this pole barn is, while the house has been redone and rebuilt, this pole barn is still there. And when you look at it off the, you know, when you go in the street view, you can see the windows are still painted black up there too.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, people aren't going to be crazy and climb a ladder that high.
Yeah. You can see we're really pumping we call it NWF/NCWA. You know, I've said before, Dave, the real story of Jim Mitchell's NCWA was not a creation of his. The NCWA started out in the NWF. People don't know this. You know, this whole story there. It's a very unknown story, but, you know, Luscious Larry and Steve Engstrom started the NCWA within the NWF to be their league.
Yep.
Co-promote with us, so we do armory shows together. It was supposed to be this great, wonderful marriage, and it went south. And then Jim Mitchell, you know, Larry then got tied in with Jim Mitchell, thinking that he could, because Larry didn't know how to do it himself. He needed somebody. When he lost me, he needed to find somebody to help him, you know, for the promoting side of things. And so he got with Jim Mitchell, and Jim Mitchell, you know, he conned him.
Had his own guys.
Yeah, he had his own people and everything, but he realized that Larry had a ring and everything, because Larry ended up rebuilding the ring. You know, he built his own ring, just like ours. So Jim Mitchell sucked everything out from those guys, took everything, and then dumped them. And then Jim Mitchell started the NCWA that way. That's how he got the name and everything. So very interesting. You know, that's one of those local Twin Cities stories that a lot of people don't even know, even in the metro, how that worked.
Well, you know, I even made the comment once when I had cable. They had their call-in show.
Yeah.
And I called in and commented how they must feel proud of themselves stealing a company from a bunch of kids.
Yeah, because what happened is Jim Mitchell then took over the whole NWF and everything from Ernie. Eventually, you know, they thought they made all these promises to him, and then when they did that, they took our time slot. So Jim Mitchell got our time slot, our long running time slot we had on cable.
Yep.
So, and then that's what Dave's referring to. You know, like Wayne says, it kind of sounds like the WCW NWO, the whole NWF NCWA situation, and it kind of was a real takeover kind of thing.
Yep.
You know, like they really did try to take it over. You know? Like Larry tried to stiff arm us and take the ring and everything, and you know, on that show that we're promoting and stuff. I see now Nick was in town, Mr. Destroyer, Nick Dumas. He had moved over to Hudson, but he came into town for this taping. So yeah, Dom was good. He was a good character. Oh, and Mike Whaley, Mr. Macho, excellent. But you can see how Ronabom is just so rusty compared to the rest of us. Like he's just not. It would have taken a few more shows for Chad to get up to speed with us.
Yep.
And you'll notice the difference in the other matches. How you can tell how people who have been in it longer consistently really show in their abilities. Those windows, man! I tell you, I wish I could fix it, guys.
1, 2, 3. He gets the pin over former United States Heavyweight Champion, Mr. Macho. The winner of the match.
So the whole idea was Destroyer. We're building up Mr. Destroyer versus Mr. Macho.
Super kicks, Mick Weller.
His Destroyer distracted him and caused that fit pin.
Mick Weller gets a super kick and a stick in the stomach by Mr. Destroyer. We'll be back with our next match right after this.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Ray Johnson.
You know, that's one thing, looking back on all the video,
Yep.
there's one thing I got to thank you for.
What's that?
You never made me the curtain jerker.
So curtain jerker, what would be the curtain jerker? Like the opener?
Yep.
Well, somebody's got to open up.
Yep.
we never looked at
Ladies and gentlemen,
our
this is
opening
producer
matches on the
Stephen
shows weren't
Crossen here,
necessarily
reporting
meaning it was the
to
least
the NWF
desirable
Saturday
match.
Afternoon
Just
Special,
I always
live
looked at
from
all of our
studios
matches as
only
being
on
credible.
Cable Channel 3.
Yep.
You know, I mean, as far as in my mind, right? I know that we are what we are, but the original Rattlesnake Jake, Jason Crossen, going back under the mask for the first time in months. Yeah. Jason was the original of this character. And I know Nick Dumas, the guy we just see, Mr. Story, he played Mr. Rattlesnake Jake for you in your tag team. So Kid Kelsey, U.S. champion, getting that belt from Mr. Macho at the Brooklyn Park Armory about a month earlier. Yeah, that U.S. belt was a nice one. Got it on the wall back there. It's that second one up.
Oh, I've got it over here somewhere.
Yeah.
Actually, right over my shoulder here.
That belt was designed by Mr. Macho Mike Whaley himself. He asked me, you know, because we determined he was going to be the first U.S. champion. He said, was it okay if I make the belt? I said, sure. He goes, because I got some ideas. And that's what he came up with. Good belt. It's my second favorite belt. I know what yours is, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, of NWF belts, I should say. My favorite belt of all belts of any wrestling belt is AWA World Inmate World Title. That's my favorite. If I had to have a favorite.
Talking about belts, Crusher, I'm sorry I drug you down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, but I've kind of finally calmed down a little bit. I haven't been buying any new belts lately.
We don't care. We love ya.
See Rick Pitts in there reffing. We went to adult refs ever since our second Armory show.
And I think he's actually sober in this one.
Yep, I don't think he was drinking today. Because when he was drinking, man, he was drunk as a skunk in there. But yeah, he's sober in this one, I think.
Or at least sober enough to do his job.
Right. You know, Jason just had a way of playing the Rattlesnake Jake character. Whether he's got the half ski mask, what it usually is a half-cut ski mask, or he's got the second, you know, the later look of Rattlesnake Jake like he's got right now. Jason just, the way he played the character was really good. I like how the Destructors are chiming in. He does not want to fight this man, he says.
Yep. Well, we've said that about Matt. He didn't like the bump.
No, Matt wasn't. He was kind of the Jesse the Body Ventura in that he just couldn't really bump. But he was over because his character was over, just like Jesse.
Yep.
You know, the Kid USA Kelsey gimmick was certainly over. There's no doubt about that. But, or Kid Hot Stuff Kelsey as he later became. But,
yep. Kelsey in general was over.
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit of the fear factor, though, of bumping. He just, I think he's afraid he's going to get hurt, maybe.
You know, that's when you're going to get hurt, is when you fear getting hurt.
Right. But, you know, as kids, you know.
Yep.
I could still work a good match with him. I had my match at the Card Superstar Spectacular 87 we're going to watch in a couple weeks here. That was my match with Kelsey there. You could still work a match with him. You just had to do it a little differently, you know.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, Jason loved being in the ring. It was his mom that didn't want him in there. That's why he usually wouldn't wrestle. And if he did wrestle, he was under a hood.
Yep.
Yep. It's an odd shot of me and Macho talking to each other outside the ring off camera there. That wasn't supposed to be on camera.
A little bit of too much behind the curtain.
Yeah, a little bit. This comes back to the kayfabe, you guys. I mean, like nowadays, it's not a big deal if a heel and a face talk to each other off camera. But back in the day,
well, kayfabe was king.
Yeah, you still, you still played the kayfabe game, even though we didn't know it was called that.
Yep.
But it was the mentality. We did it.
We didn't know about kayfabe until you guys got in with Eddie.
Well, I mean, we didn't know the term.
Yeah.
But we all acted on it. We did it.
Exactly.
It was kind of you just didn't have a word for it. And I noticed Macho's in there, and I'm racing in there, and then Steenerson trying to catch me. That dang camera in the darkness. Oh, it just drives me nuts. That stupid lights coming in the windows. Thank goodness we fixed that, though, on the next taping in the Dayton Studios.
Mr. Macho has got him down. It looks like Slick Steenerson. I don't know. Oh, here comes Crossen. And the referee's down. Man, we need some wrestlers in here.
That is Jamie McParland commentating, going crazy on the mic, by the way, everybody.
That's who I thought it was.
Mr. Macho and Slick Steenerson getting out of the ring.
A little bit of NWA influence there, I would say, with his commentating.
Just a little bit.
Mr. Macho, and here comes Mr. Destroyer, and here comes Mike Bauer, and there's Mr. Macho. What have you got to say for you, soul?
Kelsey.
Macho, why'd you go running in there? That was Dixie Dave.
Well, I heard Dixie Dave in there.
Dixie Dave.
Kelsey. Your days are numbered. You know it.
Hey, the championship committee's gonna take that belt away from you and get you suspended.
There's that U.S. championship
Here comes Crossen out with a hurt shoulder.
that Mike designed. Of course, the replication, when we replicated it, is much better looking than the original. I mean, obviously, we just have the ability to make them look better now. But
Oh yeah.
that's that second belt from the bottom there, back on my wall back there.
Be sure to tune into NWF.
Super D's in that promo there. Todd and Troy Dazowski went on to become professional soccer players. Pretty successful.
Oh yeah.
But in the beginning, when they were 10 years old, they were NWF Lightweight Tag Team Champions. Before their soccer career.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is producer Jason Crossen.
Saturday afternoon special.
Yeah, what that show was, it was a talk show. It was kind of like a Tuesday Night Titans type show. And we used to have wrestlers on the guests. You were on it, Dave. Dixie Dave was on there. It was fun. Like a little get to know the personality of the wrestler type thing. We always said it was live, but it was taped. And we would we would stage phone calls and stuff for call-ins and everything. Eventually, though, we did do a live show, like you know, Dave. We eventually did start doing live shows out at the cable company with real call-ins. But that wouldn't happen until, another year or two when we had figured out how to do it. And it would be in the studio. One of the things I wanted to do, we're talking about the Armory cards.
Yeah.
I wanted to do a live Anoka Armory over cable. Like, I always thought would be cool. You know how they would always broadcast live from the fair?
Yep.
So I'm thinking, let's do a live show from the Anoka Armory. Wouldn't that be cool over cable? So that was something that was one of my things that was on my bucket list at the time with the NWF that I wanted to do that I never got to. The all cage card that I was planning on doing, and a live event out of the Armory. Yeah.
The Destructor is in terrible condition right now. What's it gonna be? Whoa, double clothesline.
And like I said, the only thing that stopped us from doing the cage matches, all cage matches, when we realized how expensive it was to build a steel cage, and we didn't have the money. One of those things where we bit off more than we could chew.
Yes, indeed, Corporal Crossen. Day Stewart, the newest tag team in the NWF.
So the Destructors making their debut here. And they're against Invader 1, Terry Block, a veteran really in the league at this point. And Mike Bauer. Very good.
Ladies and gentlemen, Master Control Center again. We want to remind you, and the NWF NCAA.
Yep. We just keep promoting that armory show. That's, we gotta let people know it's coming, right, Dave?
Exactly.
A special card. You'll see guys
And you know what's interesting? So here's a little fun fact on that show.
along with the NWF stars that you see now.
So the one we're promoting here is the March Armory card. It was would have been our first armory show in 1987. It's the only one I don't have on video because Steve Engstrom recorded over it when I lent the tape to Troy Steenerson, and he lent it to Steve, and Steve accidentally recorded over it. So he said. So we don't have that on video. But that show was a really good show. It was a good crowd. We had about 300 people show up at that one at the Armory. And the main event on that one was Luscious Larry. It was supposed to be Luscious Larry against Derek Dukes. And we had talked to Derek. He said, yeah, I'll do it. We worked out a price and everything. And then I said, okay, great. And then Derek's like, then as we got close, Derek's like, I think I'm going to wrestle under a hood. I said, why? He goes, because Eddie doesn't know. And we don't want to let Eddie know. I said, well, let's just tell Eddie. What are you talking about? I said, he's not going to have a problem with that. I said, I'll talk to him. He's like, no. No, we don't want him to know. I'm like, you guys, and I'm thinking to myself, if Eddie finds out about this and we're not telling him, that's not good.
Exactly.
So Derek Dukes called himself Mr. Destruction or something, and he had a mask on. And he wrestled. He did the main event and everything. But did it under a mask, and I'm thinking to myself this whole time, I hope Eddie doesn't find out about this. We should have just told him outright. Like, what's Eddie going to say? No, you can't do that? Eddie would not have had a problem with that at all.
And here's the thing.
I don't get it.
Derek was an independent wrestler.
Yeah.
When you're an independent wrestler, you can wrestle for any promotion.
Exactly.
He wasn't locked into a contract with strictly Ed Sharkey.
Which is why Eddie wouldn't have cared. He would have been happy we're using him. So, and that's what I was trying to tell those guys. Well, it was NWF, NCWA, two separate entities. That was Larry's NCWA side. So I said, all right, guys, fine, then do what you do. I'm just going to worry about the NWF at this point. So, but, I'm thinking to myself, that was stupid. I mean, we should have told Eddie, what are we doing here?
Yep.
And, but yeah, he did show up though, and it was part of, Larry was always looking he wanted to keep building his character up. And he figured, he already went against Steve, he went against the Warrior, now he's got to get the next thing, and that's Derek Dukes.
Yeah.
Of course it is non-title, Corporal Crossen.
And this is where Larry thought he was invincible at that point. He thought he was on the cloud nine. He thought he was the reason all the success we've had up to this point. Larry thought it was because of him. And he let everything go to his head.
Well, it's like I always say. The only NWF sellout was when Dixie Dave was there.
But what happened, Dave, when we finally split with the NWF and NCWA and let Larry and Steve go off on their own?
Larry flopped.
Larry flopped. Big time.
Yes, that is a very big league, and the White Ninja is known.
Yeah, it was one of those things that he just thought he could do it all himself, and then he realized he didn't know what he was doing. Look, Luscious Larry was good because we promoted him to be this big invincible guy, and it was our promotion of him that made him good.
Yep.
And Larry thought it was because of him. But it wasn't. It was how we promoted him. And then when Larry lost me for the promoting side, he didn't know how to promote himself.
Exactly.
So it's one of those things. And I'm not trying to brag, guys. I'm just saying Larry was great for his character, but Larry's the kind of guy you got to guide and tell him how to do things. He's not the kind of person that's going to be able to just be a leader and run it. And neither was Steve, and Steve has admitted that much
We would like to remind you all
when he
to
came
tune
on with
in
us.
to the Saturday afternoon specials live from Group W Studios.
Well, it's like I freely admit.
Ladies and gentlemen, this
You
is
know,
Ray Johnson here.
granted,
Be sure to tune in
this show that we're
every
doing
week
right now
for
may have been
professional
my
wrestling.
brainchild, but without you, it doesn't work.
With such stars
Yeah, you're
as
talking
Crusher
about,
Crossen, Mr. X,
about the
Kid
podcast,
USA
the
Kelsey,
NWF Rewind.
Yep.
Snake Jake, and many more. We're on Wednesdays 5
Um,
p.m., Thursdays 8
So yeah, to
p.m.
answer your question,
Channel
Wayne,
3.
um,
Tune in.
did Larry wrestle anywhere else besides NWF? Well, he, his own NCWA, and he did wrestle for Eddie Sharkey as
Ladies and
well.
gentlemen, this is producer Jason Clausen here, reminding you
You
to
know,
tune in
he
to the
he
NWF
got in. I
Saturday
think
afternoon
Steve got him
special,
in when
live
me and
on
Troy got in.
Dayton
Steve
Studios
got
Party
Larry to
on
get in as
Cable
well
Channel
because they were
3.
friends. So he did a
Yep.
couple shows, not
All right,
just a little
ladies and
bit.
gentlemen, welcome
But
back to NWF
but what
Professional
Larry found out when he
Wrestling.
entered the PWA was he was just another guy.
Coming in
Yep.
to the
He
ring
wasn't the
at
big
this
attraction
time,
like he was with
we
us.
have coming back
And
from Hudson, Wisconsin,
when you compare Luscious
Mr.
Larry to the rest of Eddie's roster, he's like a mid Carter or
If not.
an opener or whatever. Yeah, he just didn't have the training for one that they had or the caliber. And some of us were good, without the training. Like I think I could have held. I know I held my own, right? But
Yep.
Larry was still kind of greenish in the ring. He wasn't. He wasn't fully developed yet. At least when he was with the NWF. So this is Mr. Destroyer against Dixie Dave, everybody, and I can, in the first matchup they had out in Yoho Municipal, Dave won by pinfall, and I think Mr. Destroyer is out for a little bit of revenge in this one. And you got Irish Terror in your corner there, Jamie McParland.
Yep. Well, it's like Jamie brought up. When I brought Jamie in,
Yeah.
my intention was for, because I realized I'm not the greatest singles wrestler.
Yeah.
I'm more designed for tag team. I thought bring Jamie in as my tag partner.
Dave, I gotta
That
say
never
though, I hate to interrupt you, but those boots look awfully familiar. I see you have on there.
Oh yeah. Lots of controversy over those boots.
I mean, it has DD on the side of them, and I always thought that was Dr. Dread, but
Well, you think about it, Dr. Dread isn't even here.
Dave wasn't, guys. Dave was. His wrestling was different. His style. He was a big kid and everything, so he wasn't going to be a high flyer. So when you see Dave in the ring, he's a bigger. In comparison to us kids, he'd be like a King Kong Bundy kind of guy.
Yep.
So in size comparison to us kids, and so he was a little bit, not as agile and everything. But don't let that fool you for how much heart he had into this whole thing.
Oh yeah, I was all in.
Yeah, he was like behind the scene. Like guys would test Dave. Like he'd get in matches and really get, guys would get stiff with him and rough him up in the ring. It happened multiple times, and it was like a testing to see if Dave would come back. And Dave kept coming back, show after show after show after show. Where a lot of kids would be like, "I'm done with this."
If somebody stitch you, they'd be done. Where I was just like,
yeah. And that's what I seen. I seen the heart. I always say that. I seen that guys like Dave had the heart. They were in it for the long haul. They wanted to be a part of it no matter what.
You think all the late night phone calls that you and I had.
Yeah.
Just talking about behind the scenes stuff. I was never on the producer board or any of that.
Right.
We're not sure, Mr. Destroyer pausing for a moment.
But I'd feed ideas quite a bit.
Yeah.
He's conscious.
Mr. Destroyer was very good too in the ring. Not to take nothing away from Dave here, but he was working on a drop kick off the top rope, and I don't know if he does it in this match. We'll see. But if he does, man, that's that's pretty innovative for us to be doing drop kicks off the top rope, and I think he might do it in this match. I don't know. We'll see. But Nick was on the cutting edge of that kind of stuff. Dom, Mr. Destroyer, the guy in the red, he was trying things, that nobody was in our league had ever done.
with 1 foot on the ropes. Kelsey messing around there.
So we'll see if he does it in this match.
2 count, 2 count.
See, we're kind of getting used to the camera placement now. We're trying to keep it so it doesn't go dark so much. You know, we're getting used to those lights. It just takes a while. But, you know, remember, this is all restored footage. So as we see this stuff, you can see that, you know, even though the light's bleeding in, but the video's nice and clean. There's no fuzziness. There's no, you know, we got this weird glare from those stupid lights coming in the windows. But
Yep.
oh, look at this, Dave. I think he does do it.
Drop kick off the top rope.
Yeah. I mean, just good as it can be, good as anybody, really. It's hard, guys. It's hard to do a drop kick off the top rope. It doesn't watch Kurt Hennings and stuff. They don't look pretty, but it's cool to see, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Come on, people.
Yeah, it's just the way the drop kick goes. You know, to do it from the top rope, you have to come down at an angle, so it just looks awkward, but it's a pretty cool thing. What do they call it? Like the missile drop kick, I think. Used to call it Kurt Hennings.
Yep.
Kurt Hennig was the only one I ever knew that did it.
Well, Brian Pillman was.
Did Brett Pillman do it as well?
Yeah. Kelsey, Rattlesnake Jake, and many more. We're on Wednesdays.
You know, Brunzell never did one off the top, but
Brunzell's was
drop kick. Yes.
Yeah, Brunzell's was pretty though, and Ricky Rice had a good drop kick. Yep.
The Prophet.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is producer Jason.
Those are what I like to consider good drop kicks. You know who had a slop? You know, I critique the drop kick because that was my move. The person who had a sloppy drop kick, Greg Gagne. I hate to say it, his drop kick was always sloppy looking compared to like Jim Brunzell, who was just pretty looking, picture perfect, really. Perfect form, Brunzell was.
You know, two other people that had good drop kicks were Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm just thinking my AWA influences, you know.
Oh.
Wrestling grounds.
I mean, that's who I tailored my drop kick off was Brunzell.
Yeah.
I tried to do it like he did.
You see, that's the difference between you and I is you were influenced primarily AWA.
Yeah.
I was all over the board with wrestling.
Yeah. Well, I still watched it too, believe me. Anything wrestling, I was tuning in. But my favorite was the AWA, just because that was my bread and butter. That was what I grew up on. Oh, Crusher Crossen against Block. My only match with Terry Block, Dave. Block is Invader 1 in a mask, everybody. It's Terry Block. And this was the only time I wrestled Terry, and man, I wished I would have done more with him. He was good. He was a really good hand in the ring.
Yeah.
Wayne McCarty agrees. Jumpin' Jim Brazil had the best drop kick. I think. I mean, I arguably would say that. Yeah, and Terry Block, by the way, had a pretty good drop kick too. You know, like I always talk about my drop kick. Terry had a good one too.
You know, what drove me nuts were those guys that would go up for a drop kick and just barely tag somebody with 1 foot.
That's the Greg Gagne. Yeah. Yep. And sloppy looking, not keeping your feet crisp and tight and getting that perfect vertical turning 90 degrees. There's a technique to a drop kick, guys. You know how I used to, did I ever tell you how I practiced the drop kick? So at Eddie's camp, he was in a boxing setup. He had like punching bags and stuff. And you know those big punching bags, the long ones that are hanging? I'd have Troy hold it. And I would mark a spot and I would just do my standing drop kick to the punching bag. And I'd keep doing it over and over, just doing standing ones. Just marking a spot, trying to get as high as I can. A lot of times going higher than me and trying to, hit that spot. Yeah. That's a good way to practice it, honestly, because it gets you used to doing it. And, if you can do it from a standing position, then you can do it from a running position, right?
Yeah.
And I used to do them both ways. I'd either do it standing, I could do it running.
And Crusher Crossen being the oldest.
Crusher Crossen's Hulk Hogan influence.
Yep.
In its 6 years of existence.
A little bit of Ric Flair and a little bit of Hulk Hogan. That's who I used to try to. I always tried to do my moves after. And definitely Bobby Heenan influence as far as how to sell. The way when Heenan would get hit, how he'd go flying. I used to try to do the same thing.
NWA Pro Wrestling Spectacular at the Anoka Armory, Friday, March 20th, 7 p.m.
I mean, I mean, these days I tried to sell as best I could. Like the drop kick, I'd fly off, land on my shoulders. I'd really try to put the other guy over. I didn't care who it was.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we've talked about how when I was part of the NWF, I didn't care if I was counting the lights or
Yeah.
what. I just wanted to be in that ring.
I mean, this is Block. He's a jobber for us, right? But I'm
Yep.
still letting him get his moves in.
Mhm. It's the only way to get somebody better is
Yep.
you let them do their thing. You know, that's what McMahon was missing in the late 80s, early 90s when he was doing enhancement matches.
Yeah.
Headbutt to Block. Block knocked down by the tremendous blow.
Yeah, Terry's
You
good.
don't,
Many a heads.
Go ahead, Dave.
Now what's
you don't
Crossen
just,
doing?
yeah, you want your stars to go
Crossen should stay
over,
out of this. Crossen,
but
you're an Irish
to make it a
best
squash
of
match, that just,
Irish rep, and
It's no fun.
it,
You want
yeah.
you got to have some back and forth. Now you can see I did my drop kick, but I kind of missed him, so I have to sell. I'm selling because I missed him. I'm selling the leg. And the camera didn't get a good shot of that drop kick anyway, so it's a good thing I missed. And this pile driver, the reason it glitched like that is because I had to do that in the editing suite. Terry tucked his head up, and we seen that I missed that pile driver by about 3 inches. Camera caught it too well. So
Yep.
because the camera caught Terry's head coming up, I had to do a little edit glitch there to make it so you don't see it. That was done in the editing suite back in the day, so just to protect the move itself, to make it people don't realize it was fake. Little kayfabe again,
Yep.
Dave.
Gentlemen, this is Ray Johnson here.
Yeah.
Be sure
Well, as
to
we
tune
said,
in
back in our
every
day,
week for
kayfabe was
professional
king.
wrestling.
It was.
With such stars as Crusher Crossen, Mr. X, Kid USA.
So yeah,
Kelsey,
like I said, it's really cool the way I can restore this. I can get Jason's original dialogue. I can get rid of the copyrighted music,
Tune in.
and then I can put new music in, which is what I did. So that's kind of cool
Yep.
that way for all those promos.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is producer Jason Clausen here,
You know,
reminding you to tune in to the NWF.
Back when we were doing the
special
NWF, kayfabe
live
was
from
so
DW
king that
Studios, only on cable channel 3.
it's like when the Iron Sheik and Hacksaw Jim Duggan got busted for smoking or for having drugs in the vehicle with them.
Yeah.
You didn't see either of them on TV for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
When Ken Patera and Mr. Saito went nuts at McDonald's. You know, babyface and heel together. They broke kayfabe. They got in a little hot water.
Yeah. You know, it's funny when you hear Ken Patera talk about that story now, that whole McDonald's incident.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny because his story is some 16-year-old kid came along who just got fired and he was mad, so he picked up the rock and threw it through the window. And you're thinking to yourself, some little 16-year-old kid's going to pick up a 20-pound rock or 10-pound, whatever. It was a pretty heavy rock.
Yeah.
Or did Ken Patera pick that rock up? Yeah, you know, it's like, come on, Ken. You know, I know he's trying to just say what he's going to say, but come on, like, let's kind of the writing's on the wall, you know. I don't know.
Exactly.
But no, that was a fun show.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like I said, so the next show that Dave and I do, we're going to be doing Superstar Spectacular 87, which is going to be from the Anoka Armory, our last Armory card that I promoted that we did there. And that'll be a long show, Dave. That's a 2-hour production. So
Yep.
we're probably not going to chitter chatter too much before that one. We'll get that show started right away in a couple weeks here because, you know, we got to get through the whole production of that one. Anytime you do those Armory shows, they're long ones.
You know, one thing that, you know, I'm going to do real quick, Crusher, is I know our fans love the show and they want to help the show keep getting better. You know, go buy merch.
Yeah, our shirts. This is the one I like, and you never can see it because of the camera. But this shirt is cool. It's the NWF logo rustic, so it's
Yep.
like an all white rustic look. That's the one I like. And Dave's got his Hall of Fame shirt on, and I know Dave's shirt. He likes that logo. He has a shirt with that logo on it, with the
Yep.
rustic with the color. Yeah, we got all sorts of them. They're cool.
And you know, I mean, I keep my NWF shirts in a special drawer, and I just grab whatever's on top.
And they become talking points, guys. I wear this shirt around, and people are saying, "What's that all about?" You know, what NWF? What is, you know? And they're going to ask about it. So it becomes kind of a talking point, you know. It's
Well,
kinda
you
cool.
know, I'm figuring if we do in our private life what you and I have talked about doing here in a few months, you know, maybe we should bring a couple of these along.
Oh yeah, I'm planning it. What Dave's talking about is me and a few of the guys. We're going to get together. We're going to do a little mini NWF reunion out in Las Vegas next year. We're going to go out there, and myself, Dixie, Dave, the Irish Terror, Jamie McParland we just seen, Jeff Dinsmore. We're all going to meet up in Vegas, and apparently Steve Angstrom lives out there, so maybe we'll catch him too.
Yeah, you know,
Mr. X, Pretty Boy Taylor.
Pretty Boy, I know that you watch these things. Get a hold of Crusher. We can hook up with you out in Vegas when we're out there.
Yeah. Because and anybody that wants to come out there, we'll let everybody know the dates we're going to be out there. And if anybody lives in that area, they're close, and and Dave, we're going to be out there most likely during one of the NWF episodes. We're going to have to do maybe a live episode from Vegas.
Oh no, wouldn't that be horrible? I mean, we
with
might
all of us.
We might have to do it on our cell phones.
Yeah. Then we'll do one out there. We can always do it. Or maybe we'll pre-record it. I don't know. We'll figure something out. Or we'll come in live and then put a show on to watch for everybody. Just make a little cameo.
Yep.
But yeah, that might be a week where we let you guys watch. We'll do a viewer request that week. We'll say, what show do you guys want us to show? And we'll let it go without us jibber jabbering over it.
But
full screen.
You could quickly say hello to Dr. Dread, Dixie Dave, Crusher Crossen, and Ricky Vaughn all at the same time.
Yeah, we're going to be out there, and we're looking forward to it. It's going to be kind of this is Jeff Dinsmore's idea. He's been wanting us to all get together and do it in Vegas for a long time, just because it'd be fun to be in Vegas. So yeah, we're gonna make that happen. We pretty much decided.
And I've got a few friends out there, and we may actually get. I've actually hit one of them up who used to work for WWE, and he said he'd be more than happy to get together with us.
Yeah, so we're probably going to be okay with him. And then, we're going to, we're talking end of February, first part of March type of thing next year. So probably end of February, most likely. So, yeah.
So any NWF alumni?
Any of the alumni, of course, are going to be anybody, really. So it'll be a fun get together.
Some of the people that you've had on forward.
Yeah, like
in that area.
Future stars of wrestling. Maybe we'll catch up with them and maybe see Bodie Young Prodigy. See what's going on with his career and stuff. Maybe see if he's still got the belt.
Maybe you should actually get together with that promoter and chit chat and say we're going to be out in that area. See if they want us to do a cameo at their camp.
Yeah, go to one if they have one of their shows and stuff. Thing is, though, we're going to probably be there during the week, so they may not. They usually do their stuff on the weekends. So that's the only thing, but never know. Maybe they have something going on. If nothing else, we could maybe make a trip out there and check out their facility, their training area and everything. I wouldn't mind doing that. But yeah, so that'll be fun. This show, these later days of the NWF. It's funny, Dave. Our fans are funny this way. We've got fans that love us to see us more polished. We've also got fans that love to see us unpolished.
Exactly.
And then there's those that like to see the transformation. They like to see where we started.
Revolution.
And the revolution of where we end up. So, like I said, I used to have a hard time with the early stuff. I look at it today as I'm an older adult and a wiser and smarter and have 20/20 hindsight vision. I look at that and I think, good Lord, what are we watching this? Why are we even watching this stuff?
Well, I remember a while back when we had we were going to do a show with the Destructors.
Yeah.
And they had some personal stuff going on, had to cancel.
Yep.
And
they're still coming on one of these days. We just got to get them on.
And we did a 180, and I got Papa Liliac because we were using Liliac's music, and you were like, "Oh no, we can't do the show that we were going to do. We got to do something better."
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's like these later shows are fun. We still got a dry dock show to get to as well after this armory card next time, but then we're going to have a dry dock show, and maybe we'll get Jeff and Jamie on again for that one we've been talking about. And then we're going to go back to the beginning again. We'll go back to Group W cable, and we'll start incrementally going our way up the ladder again with the next, shows for restoration. And those will all be going on the network, and they'll be coming on here as a rewind preview, and it'll be fun.
Oh, exactly.
I like, it's fun to look back and reminisce and tell the stories. And we talked about the stories of Jim Mitchell tonight, and
Yep.
how he got started and how he got NCWA. I'm sure Wayne, I'm sure the guys remember Jim's league, NCWA, and not realizing that started the NWF. That's
Exactly.
it's an interesting story, and Mick Harsh announced for Jim Mitchell for a while there. So it's like, and here they don't, people don't even realize how that started. The reason I never did nothing with Jim Mitchell, I had no involvement with Jim Mitchell other than Jim Mitchell showing up at our very first Armory show and shaking my hand at the end of the night. That was my only involvement with Jim Mitchell. And the reason is, Dave, because when we met Eddie Sharkey a few months later from that first Armory show we did in May that you came to.
Yep.
When I met Eddie, I told him, I said, hey, this guy named Jim Mitchell showed up, Iron Duke. And right away, Eddie's like, dude, he's like, kid, he is bad news. Stay away from him. That was Eddie Sharkey's advice. And because I respected Eddie so much and looked up to him so much, I took that advice and
took it to heart.
And I did not get involved with Jim Mitchell. So that's why all the other guys, Larry, Steve, even Jeff, they all tangled in with Jim Mitchell at the end there. Not me. Because, I remembered what Eddie said. and Dave, where's Jim Mitchell now?
Exactly.
I unfortunately passed away, but you don't even hear about it anymore. It's people don't even know that it existed.
What a wrestling fan I've been my entire life.
Yeah.
When you brought up Jim Mitchell, I was like, who?
Yeah. There was just bad blood with him and Eddie Sharkey. I don't know the details, but they did not get along, those two.
And I'm sorry, I have more respect for Ed Sharkey than I do the Iron Duke. So,
well, I did. Look, Eddie took us under his wing. Really, he was very
took a chance on a bunch of kids.
He did. He was very welcoming. He was. I'm trying to explain this into where you can understand how it was. But when I first met Eddie Sharkey, the feeling that I got was just, I felt like I just all pumped up. Like Eddie would make you feel as if you were an equal to him, even though he's way up here, right? But he would make you feel on an even playing field, like you're at his level.
You're one of his boys.
Right. And well, even with me, he looked at me as another promoter like him.
Yep.
Promoting wrestling, just a different kind. And he made me feel that way. And so as a result, I just admired him and respected him. And I just couldn't, if he told me to stay away from Jim Mitchell, so be it. That's just the way I felt, I took anything Eddie told me, I took, to heart.
Well, here's what I look at. You look at all the names that have gone through Ed Sharkey's training camp.
Yeah.
I mean, in all honesty, back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, it's kind of a who's who of pro wrestling.
I know people don't even realize Bob Backlund, Jesse the Body Ventura, Rick Rude, Nikita Koloff. Crusher was it? Crusher. The other one, Ivan, Nikita, and the other guy. What went on to become Demolition? Crusher Khrushchev. Yeah. I mean, all these guys.
Road Warriors.
The Road Warriors. I mean, who could forget them? Yeah. I mean, and then there's the guys, Jerry Lynn. Sean Waltman credits his training, to Eddie. I have to credit some of my training to Eddie too, because he did train me. I mean, I told the story about the flying head scissors that I was doing incorrectly, and Eddie got up into the ring. First time I ever seen him get out of the chair. He got up into the ring and said, "No, you're not doing that right." And here I learned later, flying head scissors was his move. Yep. So when he seen me doing it wrong, that definitely caught his eye, and he showed me exactly how to do it. And from that point on, I did it the way he showed me ever since. I'll never forget it. But yeah, I mean, lots of guys that Eddie trained, and he was, even though me and Eddie kind of had a little bit of a falling out in the end when I left, for whatever reason.
There's nothing but respect for him.
I mean, what I learned lately is, what I learned years later is the reason was he was upset because I was out of state and just having to travel back and forth, not being able to be there all the time was what was bothering him.
Yeah. So, and like the comment right here, a guy who's currently in the WWE, Eric Rowan.
Yeah, trained by Eddie.
Who's part of the Wyatt Six right now.
I mean, there's just, he's one of the prominent trainers, Eddie Sharkey. He really is. Was, I guess I should say was. He doesn't train anymore, but.
If you were able to say that you survived Ed Sharkey's camp, promoters knew that you could work.
Yep. You know what I learned from Eddie Sharkey more than anything, though? Eddie reinforced what I had already started doing. He reinforced it with me, and that is nothing can stop us if we keep moving with what we're doing. Eddie he just reinforced what I already was starting to do with the NWF. He just reinforced it. And
it's a lesson in life. I mean, okay, a little behind the curtain here. I've got 2 daughters, my Dixie chicks, I call them.
Yeah.
Both have disabilities.
Yeah.
And, Crusher, you've known that for years.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always told them, the only limitations that you have is what you limit yourself to.
Yeah.
And that wasn't me trying to blow smoke up their ass.
Right.
Trying to, overhype them. It was me telling them, don't limit yourself to what people say you can do.
Exactly. It's like I tell all my forward guests too, I thought, when you're young, you think you know everything. You think you got everything under, I think of Bodie Young Prodigy, right? He thinks he's really got it all, but you don't know what you don't know. And here, when I first met Eddie Sharkey, we'd done the Okanoka Armory, big crowd and everything. And I thought I had everything under control, and I knew what I was doing. And when Eddie invited me down to his training camp and I showed up just to see how things were going, he had me sit right next to him in the chair. What an eye opener. You talk about not knowing everything and realizing you don't know everything. And I asked one question during that session. I said, Eddie, how come they keep doing the same thing? And he's like, because that's what it's all about. They got to keep doing that over and over and over until they have it memorized so much so that they never forget the technique. So that's all they're going to do.
Yep. And, I'm going to say something here, Crusher, and if you want, you can put it on a loop so you can play it for
a short?
Well, not just a short, but you can play it for your guests on forward.
Yeah.
When you're breaking into the business, cut the attitude of you know it all. Shut your mouth, open your ears, and listen.
And just listen. It's like our guest we had on Wrestling Revolution with Keaton last week. That was kind of his advice to the guys that would come in. You know, people would come in saying, I'm going to be this guy, or I'm going to be that guy, and I'm going to do this and that. And he'd be like, you're just going to sit there and you're going to listen is what you're going to do.
Yep. I mean,
yeah.
You know, at first, did I enjoy the gimmick of being a hillbilly from Mudlick, Kentucky? Nah, not really. You know, I wanted something flashier and fancier. I mean, we had Mr. Macho and all these other guys.
Yeah.
But you know what? I shut up. I listened. And I did what I was told.
And, you know, everybody trains differently. You know, the way Eddie trained, and I spent many times at his camp, Dave, many times. Once he invited me, you know, to come in, I did. And whether I worked out with the guys or whatever. But the way he trained, he pretty much stayed in his chair, but he would just kind of watch, and he'd have handlers doing everything. And he would, you know, say, hey, work on this. Or, you know, if he noticed something, he'd call it out. Every now and then he'd get out of the chair, but for the most part, he just stayed in there in the chair. And you know, but he wasn't like, you know how you see the reality show becoming what was that show called, Dave? Tough Enough or whatever?
Yeah, there was Tough Enough and Breaking Ground.
Breaking Ground. And they do all this like drill sergeant training, right? Getting your, you know, just rough and tough, and Stu Hart, Vern Gagne. But not everybody trained like that. You know, everybody trains differently. Every trainer is different. Yep. Just like you have different head coaches in football. Some people are like a Tom Landry, very cool and calm, collective. Others are a Mike Shula who's barking orders. Yep. So it's like trainers are like that too. And so my experience with Eddie was certainly not a yeller and a screamer or a tough enough type of thing. It was a very methodical repetition. Keep doing it 100 times until it's in your head. You know, that's how he trained.
He trained by muscle memory.
Yep. Memory retention. And so, of course, this is old school training for all the newbies out there. And, you know, today's day and age, it's probably a little different, but old school style, that's kind of how it was done. And,
you know, you did muscle memory training, so that way the move became second nature to you. Even if you never used it again.
Yeah.
You know, one day you could throw it out in a match and you could do it the same as you did it in training camp.
You know what's amazing to me, though? Bobby Heenan was probably one of the best workers, right? Everybody says that. You could put Bobby in for Ray Stevens, going to be just as good of a match. Put him in for Nick Bockwinkel, it's going to be just as good of a match. And Bobby didn't have a lick of training. You know, he was never trained by anybody. Bobby said as much that Bobby just knew he could work.
Yep.
So, and granted, he was around the business a long time, so he probably picked up on it. I get that. But it's amazing to me how good he was for not being formally trained, you know?
Exactly.
So, you know, and the same could be said for some of us in the NWF. You know, we were pretty good for the time, right? I got to stress that, because it wasn't, you know, if you look at old school style wrestling, we were pretty much doing what they were doing in the regular wrestling on TV at the time, right? You know, nobody was doing hurricanratas, nobody was doing moonsaults and that kind of stuff at this point in time. So
yeah, it wasn't until a couple of years later that Scott Steiner started throwing out the Frankensteiner.
Yeah, right. That was like early 90s, right?
Late 80s, early 90s. We're talking like 88, 89 that he started doing that.
Right.
Or the Great Muta doing the moonsault.
I mean, they were just basic. Yeah, you might have had a few guys doing stuff like that, but it was so rare. You know, and we didn't know much about Lucha Libre at the time, you know, which they were probably more advanced than any of us. I mean, the first time I was blown away is when I seen the Guerrero brothers come in the AWA. There were three of them. They were a 6-man tag. Yeah. And I seen these guys. I thought, my gosh, this is incredible. Look at the stuff they're doing. I was just I couldn't believe my eyes. And that was 88.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I thought, what Super Clash?
And I remember their interview at Superclass. he mentions Eddie. He's coming up. He's talking about Eddie Guerrero.
Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting times, guys. Oh, the old school days. We could go on forever, huh, Dave?
Oh yeah.
But I suppose we got to wrap it up. We're at our kind of our time limit here. We usually go about an hour and a half, and we're right there. But Dave,
Yep.
I know you usually ask me, but I'm just going to put it out there. What do we have coming up next week on NWF Forward? Well,
Yep. I was just getting ready to ask you that, Crusher.
what we got coming up on Forward next week, guys, is an interview I'm really looking forward to. We're going to be talking to NIPW's latest wrestling sensation, Ben Nelson from Northern Ireland Professional Wrestling. He is the protege of Ricky Henry, the Canary Kid, our very first guest. And they all have like protege, like when new people come into the company over there, they're kind of put in like they become a mentor, and Ricky has been Ben's mentor. So really looking forward to talking to this young man. He's got a bright future. He's brand new to the business. I think he's 17 years old.
Yep.
And it's going to be a great conversation. And we'll show some of his matches. We'll just get a kind of an idea of what he's all about. So just getting started in the business. And it's in it, like Dave, I'm telling you, like, all these guys, it's in his blood. He loves it, and that's what it's all about. It's talking, like we say, NWF Forward's all about the future. I want to, we look at the future stars of wrestling, and he is certainly a future star. So we'll see what he's all about. Go ahead,
That's
Dave.
the big difference between Rewind and Forward. Rewind, we look back at our past. Forward, we look ahead to what's coming down the pike for pro wrestling.
Right, and you never know, out of all these people I've been interviewing for Forward, the Canary Kid, Bodie Young Prodigy, this guy, young man here, one of these times, Sub Forrest Arnie, one of these times in 10, 20 years, we might see these guys in the WWE or NXT or who knows where.
Exactly.
So, I mean, it's possible. Look, back in the day, Dave, Sean Waltman, the Lightning Kid, did we think he was going to be a WWE Hall of Famer?
I never thought.
No.
First time I saw Waltman,
No.
I thought, this kid's too damn small to be in the business.
Exactly. He was small. But look, I'm not taking nothing away from Waltman. But at the time, it's like he's just another guy, right?
Yep. Another small guy that wants to get into pro wrestling, and would I figured he'd flounder on the indie scene his career.
Right. So you never know who's going to rise up and become something. So that's what's cool about Forward. All these guests I've had, you don't know who out of that crew is going to go on to make it. I'm telling you, some of them guys have the right attitude. Just a matter how far they can go. So we'll see. But yeah, so it's been a fun show. Dave and I love doing this Rewind with you guys. We didn't have our regulars with us tonight like we usually do. No Gizmo and company, but every now and then you need a break, right, Dave? Maybe they have stuff going on too. So
Look at me. I had to have a break 2 weeks ago.
And remember, folks, our live streams are great. We really appreciate those who tune in. I'm thankful for that Wayne came in and asked some questions. But probably 95% of our views are in replay. So,
and
reality.
I'm going to say something real quick. Those of you who watch it during the replays, come join us live. We're not like a lot of podcasts where we pre-tape and have staged questions or comments.
Or, strict time limits.
We are live. Everything that happens on this show is real. Come join us live. Watch us live. Interact with us. We enjoy the interaction.
Yeah, and we encourage comments. By the way, I forgot to bring this one in. Wayne McCarty said, ears open and mouth shut. He's referring to the training.
Yep.
A lot of guys, new people coming into wrestling, they got to realize if you want to break into this business, that's pretty much the best advice you got right there from Wayne. Don't come in with a big head on your shoulder. Don't come in expecting how you're going to try to dictate what's going to happen. You need to be open-minded.
Exactly.
Right? So that's just You know, and that hasn't changed. That's how it was back in the day, and it's still the same today. So as far as
Ask
that,
respectful questions.
yep. But yeah, you know, and look, I get it. You know, everybody, it's a dream. It was a dream for us, Dave, and we had the ability to live it out. So we're grateful for that.
Another comment from
Yeah, Wayne's talking about that. Also went for being in the locker room at the shows, and what he's talking about is sometimes the guys would get big heads down in the room. You know, I'm thinking down in George's and Fridley. You got to learn to keep your mouth shut there too, and not start getting a big head on your shoulders. Because that's people don't want to hear that, you know, and that's the trouble with the indie scene, though, Dave. And not to get on a tangent here, but you get guys in the independent circuit, and everybody's, at least back in the day, the mentality is, we're going to make it to the WWF.
Yep.
We want to be in the WWF. And so they don't give a crap how they get there. And they start, you know, thinking all of them, it's all about them.
Right.
And they lose focus on the whole art of professional wrestling as far as the mentality in wrestling is very simple. Dave, if me and you are going to have a match, I'm going to sell my ass off for you, and you're going to do the same for me.
Yep. Protect your opponent.
Yep, and be, you know, protective about it. But we're going to sell for each other, and the match is going to be amazing.
Yep.
That's how you got to think. But what you do is you get guys that come in that only think of their gimmick and their character, and they really don't care about everybody else, and they just want themselves to get over.
They're worried about their spots.
Yep, so that they think that they're somehow going to get the limelight, and they're going to get noticed, and they're going to make it in the big time. And that's, you know, I still think that happens to this day. I do.
You know, prime example here. You got, and I'm probably going to get some hate here. I know I'm going to get some hate here. But okay, you look at AEW right now.
Yeah.
You got the Young Bucks, executive vice presidents of the company, you know,
yeah,
buddy with the promoter. They're always going to get their spots in. Okay, they're big deals in AEW.
Yeah.
They step into WWE. They're nothing.
Right.
But, you know, you got two guys, speaking of Lucha Libre, you got two guys like the Lucha Brothers. You know, I'm not sure if you're familiar with them. They're semi-newer guys, Crusher. Mm-hmm. Look them up. You'll get a kick out of them.
Yeah.
But they like to get their stuff in, but they sell. And they've been in AEW. They've been in various other promotions.
Well, you know, most of the guys that have made it, Dave, know what to do. No, they understand it. It's the indie scene where you see more of this. Guys that haven't made it yet.
Yeah.
That are trying to make it, and maybe it's out of frustration, but you know, they just try to put themselves over and forget about. They just want to get their spots in, and they make it all about them.
Right.
And I can remember coming across people like that in the NWF even.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we had guys that wouldn't sell for anybody and just wanted to get their spots in. And yeah, I mean, that's just, I think that goes with the wrestling territory, really. But when you get to be a professional at a high level, you've earned that. You're in that position because you know better, right?
Right.
Yeah, I guess if that makes sense. But anyways, we went on a little bit, Dave. We should probably wrap her up. And it was fun. Yeah. Dave and I do that, though. We'll get on those tangents. We'll start talking. It's just the way it is. It's the nature of the beast here. NWF Rewind.
You know, I mean, between Crusher and I, we've each got, 35, 40 years in the business.
Yeah.
You know, we've seen a thing or two.
Even though we've been dormant a little bit of that time, but yeah. Yeah, we certainly have, though.
You know, we still see things, and we still...
Oh, yeah.
Well,
we learned a lot. I mean, who else, Dave, could come on here and say, we promoted shows that had 300 to 400 people show up more than once.
Exactly.
So it's always our bragging point. It's our bragging rights, and we'll stick with it, right?
You know, I mean, all due respect to Ed Sharkey, but we outsold Ed Sharkey.
Well, he had some big shows, though. Don't forget about his when he finally went to the St. Paul, I think it was the St. Paul Armory. He had a pretty big show
Yeah.
there. Of course, he brought the Road Warriors on and a few others, big selling names to make it big, but yeah.
But, you know, we didn't have that selling. You know, we didn't have,
No.
former AWA champions to come in for us.
Nope. The main event at the first Armory card with 350 people was me and Crusher Crossen against Pretty Boy Taylor.
Yep.
So that's what it was. But, you know, but it goes to show you the power of a weekly cable show.
Yep.
Right? That's what it was all about. We had a regular people tuning in every week back then, and they we advertised we were going to do a show. They show up. That's really what it was.
That's what I think is smart about what WWE's going to do here later this year. They're switching from a cable network to a streaming service for their Monday Night Raw show.
Is that what they're going to do?
Yeah, they're going to go from USA Network to, I believe it's Netflix.
Wow. It's the future, though. Streaming's the future. It really is.
You know. Well, I mean, hey, you could say that we're a part of that revolution.
Yeah.
We stream every 2 weeks.
That we do. And I hope you guys like it when we ramble like this, because Dave and I like rambling, but I just hope we're not like rambling too
Boring
much.
you to sleep.
I'm going to try to do this, though, guys. When we do, in 2 weeks from now, of course, next week I've got Forward, but in 2 weeks from now, we're going to do, I see Wade McCarty's just telling us right here, Raw goes to Netflix in January. Wow.
Yep.
Crazy. But anyways, 2 weeks from now, we're doing Superstar Spectacular 87, right? Armory card. That'll be a fun show. So let's tune in for that one. I think you guys will. That is, honestly, Dave, that's my proudest moment, really, for what everything I did for the league. That was that was from production value to everything. I think that was just a great show. So let's tune in for that in 2 weeks. But then the next Rewind show, which will be a month from now, is going to be the Dry Dock taping, our first taping that it's not our first one there, but it's the first show I have on video.
Yep.
I want to see if we can't get our good friends Jamie McParlin and Jeff Dinsmore to come back with us on that one. And then, you accuse me of having a party without you, Dave. Well, maybe we get them to come in for a party on that one, since that's a show they're both going to be interested in.
Yep.
So, and we'll have, 4 of us here that we can have the guys ask questions with. So
we should probably sign off now. Let everybody get onto their thing.
Yep, we'll call it a night. But it's been fun. Hope you enjoyed the show.
So I'm Dixie Dave with my co-host over here, Crusher Crossen. We will see you in 2 weeks.
And I'll see you in 1 week with NWF Forward with Ben Nelson. So we'll see you on the next time we're live. Let's just say that.
All right. Have a good one, folks.